Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Master Maker podcast brought to you by the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild. I'm here with the wonderful, the Shonda Tyree. We've known each other for what, over 20 years now,
Yes, it's been a while.
right? And we both look so good because of
I
you.
know.
Crafted soap. That's right. We both know it. So I'm very excited about this topic today, but I really want to let the listeners know who you are first. So let me
Mhm.
ask you about Nyah Beauty, because that's your company and what you make. And what was it that moment that you said, I'm really doing this? Like, I really have a business. What was that moment for Nyah?
Well, Nyah Beauty, first off, is a lifestyle brand and a self-care experience. And we're based in Newark, New Jersey. And we're not just products. We pride ourselves on also creating special moments of reset. But we craft handmade soaps that are all plant-based skincare as well. And our hands-on experiences like our sip and soaps. They bring people in, and we love having people come to our space and actually interact with them. So, what really made me realize that I wasn't just selling something, when people started giving you feedback, when people start saying, like, you really have helped me. I had a lady, but I had samples in a bank, and she took one of the samples, took it home, used it, and her doctor had told her to try handcrafted soap. So because she was very sensitive to other things, especially on her face. And she has been a customer probably ever since. So that's been about 6 years. And she won't use anything else. She's even afraid to try something else of mine,
Right.
but she just sticks to that one particular soap. So to see the impact on someone's life when you actually have something that can change.
Very powerful thing. And, I think my moment was similar. Like when I was selling my products, it was like, I made this and
Mm,
somebody's giving me money for it. Like, this is so
mhm,
cool,
mhm.
Yeah. And the fact that you can, on top of that, help solve somebody's skin
Yes.
problem or help them feel better, that's just amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. So when you first started, were you more of like a kitchen table entrepreneur or did you go all in from day one?
Kitchen table. That was a kitchen table. Just everything all over the kitchen. It just became part of the house, until I migrated down into the basement to reclaim the kitchen back. But no, it was definitely kitchen, all in kitchen.
A small business from the start, for sure. So makers try to do it all because the products in the business are their babies. Like they have a real emotional attachment to their business and their babies, and they're rightfully so. They should. So, what are some key markers that should let them know it's time to let some things go and outsource some things?
And number one, when you become the bottleneck for everything, if everything before it can get done or move forward is stuck with you, then yeah, it's time to let some things go. It's time to kind of delegate some tasks. And then also, this was for me burnout. Burnout will definitely start, and that could also affect the quality of your products, right? So you probably put less checks and balances in, and you let things go. So, and then your customer experience may not be as great as you want it to be. So, you want to try to start delegating just little things if you can. It doesn't have to be like the whole kitchen.
Right.
It could be just some prep work because that honestly helps me a lot, even though, I still may do manufacturing or production.
Mhm.
If I could get someone to do that pre work for me, it just makes my
And all
bigger.
that. Yep.
Yes,
Or the
yes.
labeling, wrapping the soaps and stuff. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think about it, I have an analogy. So I love to garden and I have probably 68 plants in my house. People say I have a issue, but you know what? That's okay. Love my plants. But I have whenever you're repotting, let's for example, talk about a spider plant. Anybody knows about plants. A spider plant will take over whatever pot you
Mhm.
put it in, okay? And so when you actually go to replant it, the roots are completely taking over the pot, almost bursting the pot out. So the plant cannot grow. The plant
Mhm.
won't get any bigger until that's addressed, until you put the plant into a bigger pot and then it moves into that space too.
Mhm,
That's very
mhm,
much like a small business. As you're
mhm.
growing, you've got to realize you can only grow so far on your own steam. Would you agree with that?
Correct. Yes, definitely agree. I definitely agree with it, and I understand the feelings of not wanting to let go, control, but you will also feel a release when
Mhm.
you do.
Right.
You'll be surprised, like, "Why did I wait so long for this?"
Right.
Like, why why did I trust other people? But, when you do, even the littlest just start with something small, a small task, and let a child do it or hire an intern or, a lot of times these high schoolers, they have to do volunteer hours, and a lot of them would love to be a part of your business and your process. If you have kids, you could put them or nieces and nephews, you could put them to work. Like you said, the simple things like labeling or putting caps or pouring
Doing
things doing the dishes, the part we don't love about this whole
exactly, exactly.
process.
Farm out that stuff, yeah.
Right, and that is true, it's like the stuff that you really don't enjoy, the part you don't enjoy doing,
Right, and there's
there's
always
parts of them.
something, right? There's always
Yeah,
something that people don't
let
enjoy.
someone else do that, yeah, like, you don't the dishes part right now, I got a sink full of dishes because I don't enjoy doing it, right?
Right,
So I have to,
right.
but guess what? I do have an intern, and when she comes in, I'll be like, "So"
Some
Wash
dishes.
so, those are the ways that you can begin to kind of release and let
That's
go.
very true, and I find too that makers fall into 2 categories. They either love the making, creating product part, or they love the selling business, I wanna
Mm,
get my
mhm,
products out there part. But they
mhm.
usually don't find people who love both, you know?
Both,
So,
yes,
you've gotta
yes,
work to your strengths, but you've also got to address your weaknesses
yes,
and
yes.
realize, "Okay, I don't like doing this, so I'm not gonna do a good job at it," and maybe that's something you outsource, right?
Mhm,
Yeah.
yes, definitely.
So at what point did you realize that doing everything yourself was actually holding you back? Kind of like that plant in the pot. Can't grow any further. What were
Right.
the markers that kind of clued you off to that?
Number 1, when opportunities come, you often find you don't have the capacity to fulfill. So, growth is happening around you, but then when something comes that could take you to the next level, you're like, "I'm spent. I can't really do more."
Yep.
And so that's a number 1. And then also when you're really working in your business 100% of the time and not on your business 0% of the time. Maybe not be exactly 0, might be 1%. But, that's a kind of an indicator that I might be, these are the things that are holding me back. And then your revenue also can be an indicator. Revenue tends to start to plateau.
Mm.
And even though you're putting all these efforts in to increase, but you're like, why isn't more happening? Right. And it's not until you let go of some of the things that you already have on your plate by bringing on team members.
That's very true. And I always have a saying about business that I've told many, many, many small businesses over my career, and that is don't create a monster unless you're prepared to feed it. And that's
Mhm,
another thing that seems to happen in the small business space is that all of a sudden you do take off. You've
mhm.
got to be able to feed that monster to continue on and grow further.
Yes.
And a lot of times that's the point. You've got to give something up. I mean, I think that's your first point about missed opportunities. I think that's
Mhm.
one of the key indicators. If you're getting a call and you can't fulfill that order, why? Why can't you fulfill it? And
Yes.
that's what you got
Yes.
to address, you know?
And there's different expectations also from a more corporate
Hmm.
business, right? So I'll give you an example. So I got a call, and I believe this company is like a distributor for like the hotels that are online. Like, so you buy the pillows, like the pillows at the Hyatt or the Westin, and then you go on the website. So that is a distributor that kind of handles all that. And there's one located here in New Jersey. So they had reached out to me about they were interested in adding something onto their line, bath bombs in particular. And so I was like, yes, I could do it. They wanted to test it. Number one, they wanted small orders. So they didn't want to do anything big. They wanted to see if there was going to be any traction.
Right.
And then they also wanted to, I guess, support small business as well. But, so when you're dealing with corporate, it's like, or bigger corporations, let me say, they can take forever, right, to
Mhm.
make decisions and get back to you. But when they're ready to move forward, you got to be ready for that.
Right.
And if you are too much in the weeds of the business and doing, you can't take the time that you need to figure out all the CEO details,
Right.
right? Of
Right.
all the things that matter, especially pricing, right? You want to make sure that you're going to be charging enough. But if you're constantly the one that's doing everything else in your business, how can you have that time to nurture a new account?
Right.
To take it through the steps and so I almost lost that account because I wasn't moving fast enough.
Right.
So These are when, those opportunities can happen and you could lose them because you're too much in your business instead of having the capacity to work on your business.
I wonder if there's some people out there listening right now and going, "Ooh, this sounds familiar."
Sure.
Let's get into some questions about this podcast in particular. How would you describe the main difference between the founder mindset and the CEO mindset?
Well, the founder mindset is all about creating, building, and doing everything. And also, there's that emotional attachment to every detail. Whereas a CEO is more looking to build systems and teams. And they also want to start making better decisions based on data and growth and not just passion. Now, oh, I like this scent. We're not realizing that your customers don't even buy anything fruity, right? If you looked at
Right.
the data, you would see that your customers are not even buying that fruity scent that you have already. So why are you going to continue? So making better decisions based on data and then focusing on scaling impact and not just making product.
Right.
And then the biggest shift is from a maker to a decision maker. So those are I think are the differences between a founder and a CEO.
That makes perfect sense. And I think too, going back a little bit in our topic, but I think when you're choosing to outsource, you have to keep in mind you don't just have to outsource to people. You can also outsource to services, like
Mhm.
somebody
Mhm.
to take over your website or somebody to do all your bookkeeping, accounting, or
Mhm.
like a service that does that, rather than just an employee or a person or a volunteer. You can go that
Yes.
way as well.
I have a mentor, and he would constantly ask me, "So, what's your numbers? Like, how was your month last month?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I didn't get to that. I'm gonna get to that, and I want to do that." And I kept saying that every time I met with him. And then one day he just said, "So, when are you going to stop saying that?" And I was like, "You know what? You know what? I'm gonna hire somebody." So it got to the point where I realized that, hey, I didn't want to do it. One
Right.
of those things you don't want to do, you kind of can farm out. I didn't want to do it, even though I knew it was important. And even though I know I have the capability of doing it. And so I hired a bookkeeper. So now I have someone that is making sure my transactions are in my QuickBooks. If I need to, I can go to the P&L and L and pull it up and know what my revenue is and my expenses for the month.
Excellent. That's a good move. A bookkeeper
Mhm.
is one of the easiest first steps to start to
Mhm.
outsource your because yes, unless you're somebody who's really into numbers and you're always going to be poring over your numbers and making sure all the data is in there, a bookkeeper is such a good option for sure. Was there a specific moment in your journey that made you say, I have to start thinking differently?
Recently, I participated in a program through Goldman Sachs, and that was our orientation was all around mindset. It was around CEO founder mindset, money mindset, and how these things are impacting our businesses. And a lot of times we say we don't have time, but honestly, we do have more time than we think. The person who was leading that particular discussion told us to take out our phones. Your phones tell you how much time are you spending on productivity and social media. And one girl screamed out some crazy amount, and she was like, "So you're on social media that many hours? Like, and you're telling me you don't have time?"
Yeah.
So, so really realizing that I have to carve out time to do the CEO things. I even honestly can't be in my shop when I work on CEO because when I'm in my shop, I can see thousands of things that the founder would love to do or
Right.
could do, or in that moment, everything is high priority, right? But if Naya Beauty is going to grow and take on a different position, then I have to earmark that time. So it's honestly a recent training that I went through to really help grow small businesses.
Right. I love this topic too because everybody should be thinking about this. If you've been into
Mhm.
your business for a year or two and you're humming along, this is that shift that you
Mhm.
have to make to
Mhm.
grow.
Yes.
Absolutely. A lot of makers feel like if they step back, the quality or the heart of their product will suffer. How do you keep the soul of your brand alive while also running a successful business?
Well, your brand is you. Like, so what were your brand values? What is your mission statement? Making sure that you kind of stay true to that in everything you do, right? And so if you do have a team, make sure that they understand how you would handle a customer. So what kind of experience and feeling do you want them to have every time you interact with a customer? Your brand story. So constantly like knowing that, right? So write out your brand story. A lot of times people like to know why you're doing this, how it got started, and kind of like where you are now. But knowing your brand story, that kind of keeps it forefront. Your energy of the space and what you create. Well, actually, I had a couple ladies who came in for like a mom's night out. And they was like, it just feels so warm in here. So what is the energy that you want? How do you want people to feel just coming in here and sitting down?
Right.
Right? It's not even they hadn't even done anything yet, and they already were experiencing the soul of my business because I want people to feel that way. I want them to feel the warmth. So you can still stay involved in the creativity direction of your business, but not every task of it, right? So you still have control over how it goes and where it goes and what you do. So, that's how you can kind of keep
Yeah.
the soul of your business.
And I would argue too that if you do outsource and you do get, take some of those tasks that are not your favorite or time consuming, that you might be able to improve your brand and your product because you
Mhm.
might have more time to focus on your product and improving your product overall.
And honestly, if you can't step away and allow someone else to do your business with you, I would say with you, then you've never built a brand. Like you've built a business, something that's dependent on you. This past Christmas season, I actually booked 2 vending events and I had 2 people who helped me work together. I didn't have them work alone. I worked alone because I know my business front and back. I let them work together and to see if it could work, right? And it did. It worked. They had sales. I saw the thing coming up on my Shopify. I was like, okay. So that lets you know that the soul of your business, if you have none and you step back from it, then you haven't really built the brand. You've built something that's totally dependent on you, and it shouldn't be.
Right. That's a very good point. Absolutely. What's the first thing that a handcrafter should do when they're ready to start thinking like a CEO? For
Mm.
example, Monday morning, what changes?
What changes? I actually named Monday Money Monday because I wanted to one of the things that I wanted to be more focused on was the numbers, right? I really wasn't paying attention to the numbers, even though I hired a bookkeeper, right?
Right.
Um, so I wanted to be more mindful of what is the revenue drivers, identifying those early so that I could say, okay, this is what's pushing the revenue versus what I thought would do it, right?
Right.
And so you definitely want to look at the data. So I look at what's going to move my business forward, not what I need to make today. Even though I need to go back there and make some soap, but what is going to actually move my business forward when I'm spending that time thinking like a CEO. And then block some time for strategy, creating partnerships. That piece right there, like I was in my shop all the time. I could do my own marketing, right? I could do my social media, but the biggest piece is for me to actually go out in the community and meet people.
Right.
Let them know they may have heard of my business. I don't know if they did or not, but until they actually meet me, then they'll know more about my business. So that's how you can also keep that soul, right? Because now you've actually introduced yourself to other people who could potentially become partners with you. And you will be surprised. I actually recently joined a chamber. That was another thing to get myself out. And I went to one of the luncheons and I met this guy who runs a work development agency. When he found out I do soap making classes, he was like, I need you. We have women who have hygiene problems. So he wants to talk about it, but in a different way.
Mm.
And so he was like, can you pull together a workshop where you can come? And so I was like, sure. And then after working with him, then he's like, we have a New York office and an Atlanta office and this office. So you never know what partnerships you can make if you're not out there meeting people as a CEO. A CEO would do those kind of things,
Right.
blocking time out to be strategic, creating partnerships and marketing, not just posting, having
Right.
a
Right.
actual strategy. Okay, I mean, you can post anything, anytime, but you can post your whole life, right? This morning I did this, and now I'm doing that. And now, but is that strategic? Is
Mhm.
that really something that's going to move the needle with your customer? If it's not really a part of your brand and tracking the numbers, I know the numbers part can be a little daunting. It's not the fun part of business. But really, like I said earlier, paying attention to what's selling. What are your best sellers? And looking at what your customers' behaviors are. Because a lot of times like I said earlier, you may think, berries and fruit are your thing. You love them, but is your customer really interested in that? And if you're finding that they're not, then you could be losing customers. You could be losing sales. So it's kind of just starting to think in a different way and setting time, because you may not be able to fully throw yourself into being a CEO on Monday, but if you could throw yourself for a couple of hours or
Right.
4 hours or half a day, just start getting into that habit and that practice of, okay, I'm going to sit down at the computer.
Right.
I'm going to look at my numbers. What are some things that maybe I'm wasting time doing? Because we can find those easily, right?
Mhm.
Social media scroll, and you'll do it in the name of, "I'm doing research," but you're scrolling on social media
Yes.
for
Yeah.
hours, right? Going down that rabbit hole. So what are the time wasters in identifying?
Yeah, and it's almost like just try to build a foundation for your business and don't
Mhm,
worry about where it's going just yet when you're starting this, right? Build the foundation by making sure your systems are good, making sure
mhm,
you're not burnt out and overworked, and making sure you do know things like your numbers and build that foundation. And all of a sudden, it would be easier to have that CEO mindset because you'll
mhm,
be like, I'm not focused on these little things anymore. Now I'm
mhm.
focused on the big thing. What is going to make my business grow?
Right,
You know,
right.
that's great advice. Absolutely. So, how do you approach building a team? Getting help when your budget is really tight?
Oh, I love this because we always say, "I don't have the money to hire.
Yeah.
I don't have the money to hire," and I get it. A, are you putting that expense or cost into the price of your product? Most likely, most people aren't when it comes to pricing. They don't put that in there thinking one day I may have to hire someone to
Right.
help me make or help me sell or whatever. So maybe if you increased your pricing, I'm going to say big old 20%, you may have the money to actually pay someone, even if it's on a part time basis. You don't have to jump with a full time employee right off the bat. It could be, and part time could be what you define it to be. It could even be event based support. Maybe somebody comes once or twice a week, whatever it looks like for you and what you need in this moment. And then you grow and expand. As your business grows, you got more money, you can
Right.
now push that person to a full part-timer and then push them to a full-timer. But check your local community, like in the summertime, and even during the year. I know in the town I'm in, they have the workforce development. And so a lot of times they have programs where they're trying to get people training, on the job training. And a lot of times those programs help to pay those people. So I know like in the summertime, I'll have a couple of high school employees for maybe about 4 or 5 weeks, and that will also kinda help you get a little wet behind the ears about having someone, training someone, what you don't like or do like about that process, actually creating a job description, because 'cause they're gonna ask you for that. So now you're starting to push yourself in that direction of actually, "Okay, if I put it in writing, it will manifest," right? And then interns. There's a couple of high schools around where I am. One particular high school, I've had an intern from there for over a year. She's graduating this year, and they were actually shocked that she has stayed as long as she has stayed with me. And so they want to know if I want to have another one. Well, of course, because it's free labor, right? But just also know what you want them to do in that time frame. It can't just be so loose. You have flexibility because we're small businesses, so we have that on our side, but you wanna have some type of routine, let them learn something that they can do with you not even being there. And so she's become my shower steamer maker, and I don't even have to be here for her to make them. I think she makes them better than I do. So, that really shows I'm not teaching her everything, and so that her time here is useful when she's here for an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever. It changed as her school year moves, her schedule changed with me, but so intern, look for internships. There are all kinds of programs out there. There was another program for high school students who may have, I guess they may have been classified on the spectrum or things like that, but they still can work. And so they actually, this program paid them as well. They paid them $18 an hour. I was like, can I hire? Can I apply? But they would train them before, then they work with you, and even while they're working with you, you still have a close connection with the people that run the program, and then they go back and train them some more after that, so that they actually now have work experience that they can put on a resume. Do everything work out perfectly? No.
Right.
But you go with the flow, you find the opportunities, and you can take advantage of those things.
Those yeah, finding interns is good, and people don't realize how many opportunities are out there for people to work for you, getting
Yes.
paid by somebody else or volunteering so
Right.
that they can get experience. One of our employees' daughters is in the National Honor Society, and she had to do so many hours working for a not-for-profit, so
Mhm.
we gave
Mhm.
her the hours for us. We're like, "Oh, sure, we could use some closets cleaned out for sure, go ahead."
Exactly.
Absolutely. And becoming an employer is a very daunting task. I had to do it for the guild. We have 5 employees now, so I had to figure out all the paperwork and all the legalities and what you had to do, and every state is different with their
Mhm.
labor laws. But you can do it because every state has a labor website, and you can do it
Mhm.
and figure it out, and it'll tell you the difference between an employee and an independent contractor as well.
Mhm.
And, so
Mhm.
you can learn that. Also, I do have to mention the HSCG has on our website an entire toolkit for hiring an employee, like a
Nice.
map to follow. I
That's
know that
good.
stops some people because becoming an employer is a big deal,
Right.
any kind of
Right.
employer. So let's talk about the systems and processes because makers love a good formula. So what systems made the biggest difference in freeing up your time and mental energy?
You definitely want to, like you said, build those foundations, like having some standard operating procedures, for your soap production or whatever your candle production, whatever your production is, have the standard operating procedures. The one thing you want to be able to do is take a day off and know that someone can literally follow step by step what to do and it's going to get done. Even for me, my class setup, anything that you do, if you do vendor pop ups, right? What is the standard operating procedure for when we do pop-ups? Do I need a table? I need a tablecloth. Do I need the displays or how many items of this and how many items of that am I going to take? So that you can have some standard. Doesn't mean that things don't one-offs, maybe you do a bigger show, so you may have to have a bigger setup, but at least you have something to go by. Operating procedures for packaging, like how do you want your products packaged when you ship them out? Like what's the representation for your brand? Inventory, how are you gonna handle inventory? That was a big one for me recently. But it did help me to really see how I was set up in my backspace became better because now I understood the different parts of inventory. So now I've sectioned off the back
Right.
based upon inventory. And so I feel that that will make it easier and better for me to keep track of stuff and know where things are because really only the things that I end up needing stay. Batch production planning. How are you going to produce your batches? Are they going to be, produced in volume versus, constantly reacting to orders? How are you going to be prepared? Like, I had shower steamers. I have a customer in Manhattan. And so I don't want her to have to wait when she emails me and says, I need you to send me a shipment. Okay, now I got to make hundreds, maybe even
Right.
1,000 shower steamers. Why not have that ready, even boxed up? And when she's ready, I could just put it in a box and go, right? So thinking about how can you scale, that's part of scaling too. You got to think a little bit better in terms of your production, your batch production,
Right.
your booking systems. For me, I do classes. So I had to find an app on Shopify that would make it a little bit easier for me to be able to track, particularly track who was coming to the class. Because if I had to search Shopify, I was like going crazy. So now this system actually helps me to be able to know whether I have 4 people and what their names are and, that kind of thing.
That's
And
a
then,
good point too,
yeah.
because it's not just outsourcing contractors or employees, it's also software. Software
Yes.
can help or,
Yes.
things like that can help
Oh,
you
yes.
to produce this podcast. I have software that allows me to edit, and if I had to do this all manually myself, forget it, it would never get done. So that's another option other than
Yes.
employees is
I
software.
mean, I haven't really tapped into this part, but the big AI, like they now, I think it's like Marbleism or something. I think is one of the sites where, like, you could literally have they got these characters, right, that do certain things in your business. You can even look into that as a way of helping you to free up, but you got to have those other things in place in order to
Right.
feed that particular thing what you need to feed it. So, and then email. Email is so huge, especially when it comes to making money.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I think we do too much work. But if we create the systems and the flows, and that's a thing that you would do within your email system program, because we sign up for emails and we get these, "Oh, you were on the site. Oh, do you wanna buy this?" Those are not, someone's not sitting there literally doing that every time somebody goes to the website. These are automated things that are happening. So you could set your business to be automated behind the scenes on things, and then you'd be like, "Oh, look at that sale coming through," right? Because you took the time. It's gonna take some time to free up your time. So, but once you do it, you will see a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely have to make things more streamlined, easier to avoid that burnout that we were talking about too.
Mhm.
Because it's very easy as a
Yes.
maker. A lot of times just one person, you're very isolated. Yes, there's social media to go on and talk to other makers and stuff, but we've already talked about how much that can suck your time.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, absolutely. You have to think about the whole picture when you're doing this.
Yes.
So the CEO mindset also means looking at your numbers differently, which what we've been talking about. So now let's say we have our numbers, but how do you look at them differently as a CEO, and how did your relationship with the financial side of your business change?
Oh, well, it shifted more from, "Did I make money?" Right? That's ultimately like, "Did I make money?" But actually understanding where that money is coming from and why. So, when you start tapping into, even like on Shopify, and I know probably a lot of makers use that platform if they have a website, but they even have AI, and but even before the AI, they had reports that you can pull and you can kind of see, what are my best selling products, right? What's giving me the probably the best profit margins? Because I know in Shopify as well, you could put like your COGS in, so it could
Yeah,
kind of give you an
margins are
idea.
huge. Margins
Yeah.
are huge. Yep.
Yes. So you're not just making revenue, because that's just a fluff number, in my opinion, but are you really having anything left over after your COGS? And, that piece right there, if you're not having anything left over from your COGS, then how can you do other things? How can you do things like, marketing and advertising? Because you need the extra money to kind of do those things. So really understanding really where your money is coming from, and then you can give those things more attention, more focus. It's really good to let your customer know what is your best seller. It kind of helps alleviate your marketing when you can kind of push, yeah, you have these other things, these other ancillary things that they can buy as well. But this is what the majority is liking. And sometimes you'll be surprised as to what your best seller is, because you're going by what you think it is, but when you actually go to the tools that are there, like I said with Shopify, it will tell you, these are your top products. So now you can put more energy in there. So I kind of feel that that helps you with your finances, because you can focus on that. You can tell your customers what is your best seller, and they're going to want to buy what other people are buying,
Yeah,
right? It's
sure.
just
Yeah, they're
our
going to be
human
like, well,
nature, right? We want what other people have. So you can make better decisions based on, what to scale in terms of class. But for me, for classes, experiences, partnership.
okay. I think that too, always having some high margin products, so if you
Mhm.
like you have a soap line, soap isn't maybe one of the highest margin products because it's so
Right.
labor intensive and the ingredients are very expensive. But like a thing like a lip balm, you can make it for
Mhm.
30 cents and sell it for 3 or 4 bucks. So
Right.
having those
Right.
in your offerings tend to help as well,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes, they do. Yes. You
Absolutely.
and that's a very excellent point. And perfumes too, like roll-ons, like they're very inexpensive to make, but like you said, the price point on that, what you can sell it for,
Yep, yep.
your
So
profit
adding those to
margins.
your lines allows you to make the product that your core product even better, you
Correct.
know?
Right.
So a lot of soap and candle makers underprice because they're still thinking like a hobbyist, or they try to price match with others that are selling the products in their area. I've seen this many, many times where a maker will go to a farmer's market or a market and they're selling their bars for $4 and you're selling yours for 6. And I've seen makers actually go down to the $4 for the market. And that's a no-no, right? So I want
That's
to
a no.
ask, like, did you ever struggle with that, like the pricing of your products and believing in your products, and how did you get past it?
I remember early on in the communities that we would go on, Yahoo groups and things like that. And when they would talk about pricing, it was like $1 per ounce. So if you had a
Yes.
4-ounce bar, it was like $1 per ounce. And I'm like, now I look back and like, how did I ever make money doing that?
Yes.
Right. Which means it limits you, because therefore, if you have a 4-ounce bar, you can never go over $4.
I had a 4-ounce bar for $4 a bar, because that's what was going around. People were saying it's an ounce
Right.
for a dollar, so
But I will also encourage people to get education is. Check with your local town, your local college. There are probably programs out there for small businesses. And I think the best thing that ever happened to me was I took my first program that gave me a lot of that foundational understanding of what it means to be in business. And they talked a lot about numbers. And that's the part we don't do initially.
Oh,
We
yeah.
enjoy the making and you know the fun part, the creative part. But when you start breaking that down in terms of how much time it takes you to make your product, like you said, like soap
Yeah.
making is very labor intensive. What are the ingredients I'm using and how much am I paying for them per ounce? And what are my overhead expenses? Like that all it gets included into your costs. So first of all, you got to know what it's costing you. If you don't know what it's costing you to make that one bar of soap or make that bottle of lotion
Yep.
or whatever it is that you're selling, then you're doing yourself a disservice
And put
from that
in
piece.
the cost of your labor.
Yes,
Please.
yes,
You
yes.
guys deserve to get paid for what you're doing. So not
Exactly.
just what you're buying to make the product. It's also
Mhm.
your time and your energy that needs to be considered.
And then you also have to realize underpricing attracts the wrong customer.
Sure does.
There's nothing wrong with knowing who your competitors are because you should know who your competitors are because it allows you A to see what they're charging. So if they are charging $4, it should question you, right? You should be like, why? Like that should be the thing that comes up. And if they're charging $12, that should also say why, right? What is different about their soap and your soap as to why they may feel that they could get $12 for it? And you may understand why they're getting that $12 but never like underprice your product because you're going to get that customer that's looking for a bargain and you don't want a customer that's looking for a bargain. You want a customer that's looking for value.
Yes.
Okay, and never let the fear of losing a sale then done that. I
Too.
want to be everything to everyone. You have to know your customer. And when you know who your customer is, when that person isn't your customer and they come to your table and they're like, oh, these soaps are 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever your dollars are, they walk away, then they're not your customer. And you have to be okay with letting them go. But your customer will see the value in your product,
Right.
right? What is it made of? Your mission, your vision, your values. What is it that you want that customer to feel? What problems and solutions are you affording that customer by buying your product? So it goes beyond the product itself because you may be saving somebody time. Whatever the solution is, that's the value. You can't touch it, but
Right.
it adds the value to your product. And your customer will find you. They will not have an issue with paying what your product is worth. And I remember the first time I raised my product from the $4 to like
Mhm.
$6.
Oh,
And
no.
I was like, and people still bought it.
And you're like,
Right? So
wow, great.
so I know it's a hard thing to do because this is an internal thing that's going on up here.
Yep.
So it's part of money mindset. But never let the fear of a sale be the reason why you don't charge what you should be charging for your products. Don't allow that to be the thing that rules and realize every person is not your customer. The more you can identify who they are, what they look like, what they do, and their problems. What is their problems? What
Right.
are their hesitations? What will keep them from buying from you, you know? And when you start speaking the things that they're checking off inside their head, they will most likely buy from you. But pricing, there's a reason why she's charging $4. And if she charging $4, she's probably not making money, but just wants to have a customer. And that won't be a reliable customer. You want someone that's willing to pay what your
Right.
value
And if
is.
your competitor's selling bars for $4 a bar and you're selling for $6 a bar, you're gonna make more money. You
Mhm,
are. You're
mhm,
just gonna
right.
do it. Yes. And, the other thing I would piggyback on that is don't ever bash or talk negatively
Mhm,
about a
mhm,
competitor. When
mhm,
you have somebody who comes in your booth or your store or whatever and says, "Well, so and so is selling it for $2 cheaper." "Oh, well, that's great for them," and then start talking about the virtues of your product and why your
correct.
product is worth what you're charging.
Ex
Instead of saying that their stuff stinks or their stuff isn't good. I had that happen to me where another vendor came into my booth and was bashing my products right in front of my customer. So it's like and I could even tell that the customers were turned off by the
Mhm,
person because that kind of negativity doesn't work, you
right.
know? So price your products to sell, don't underprice them and don't ever bash another competitor.
Mhm.
Just always
Yes.
go back to the virtues of your product and your business. So, All right, we only have a few questions left. So, what would you say to the maker who's listening right now, completely overwhelmed about doing it all alone and wondering if it will ever feel easier? Because we've thrown quite a bit at them, to switch your
Mhm.
mindset from a founder to a CEO. So, what would you tell somebody who's listening and is like, I just don't even know where to start right now?
Start small. Start small. Start with one thing, one task that you could delegate, like washing those dishes, right? One thing. Once you delegate that one thing, you're going to feel a release and you're going to be like, oh my goodness, I didn't have to do it. And someone else did it and it got done. And so just start small. What do they say? How you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? The elephant is huge and humongous, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, I could never do this all," but a little here, a little there, before you know, you will start building a system, right? One system, one task. It's not gonna get easier because the work disappears. It's just gonna be that you're getting better at leading what you need to do. So and you're not supposed to do everything forever, right? So you gotta let go if you want this to grow, but start with one task. I think that that's gonna be the easiest way to get immediate reward, right? To see immediately that I didn't have to do that. Someone else did it and it got done. And
Right.
it was good.
Right. That's great advice. 'Cause starting with one thing, build the foundation and you'll be able to go from there. Absolutely. So, what does Naya Beauty look like now compared to where it started? And where are you taking it from here?
Well, I guess then I would say so, I used to be product focused, one person operation, very reactive, right? Make, sell, repeat. Make, sell, repeat, right? It was just like, well, probably was like a robot, right? Now I'm trying to be more about experience driven brand. Even when people come and interact with my product, it makes it easier for me to be able to do this in my shop. But body scrubs, like, how can, other than the smell, how can someone interact? So I have a station where people can actually give them a little scoop, let them rub it on their hands, and then I rinse it off, right? Give them paper towel, dry it off so that they can have that experience before buying something that they're really unsure about how to use, how it works, what it do. And that's how I sell more scrubs in my shop than I do at pop-ups. But, being more of an experience driven brand, that's how I want to be now. Also looking for multiple streams of income, trying different things and seeing I have retail, I have classes, even some corporate partnerships. And of course, being better at creating systems to support my growth because systems are going to be there to help because this is how it's done. This is not how I think it's done. Or did I add an ounce of fragrance or 2 ounces of fragrance? Why am I out of fragrance? Because I was probably doing the 2 ounces when I should have been doing the one. So it's just going to flow a whole lot better when you have those systems in place. And then I guess for the future, looking for ways to scale and have different experiences for people, expanding the brand's presence beyond my shop and becoming more of like a destination, not a store. So one of the things that I'm preparing for host cities for the FIFA World Cup. And so being that, Newark is so close to the MetLife Stadium and there's gonna be thousands and thousands and thousands of people here, I created an experience called the Newark Scent Tour. So they can experience this city through scent. And then I'm going to let them paint their team colors on a soccer soap.
Oh,
So
nice.
just trying to scale and think in a different way of broadening. And I had never thought about that until having that opportunity to think of what could I do differently that's going to attract to people who are coming for the FIFA World Cup. They may not even be going to the games, but they're here for the fanfare.
Right.
How can I also give them something that's unique to the area, to New Jersey, to Newark? And so, that's what I'm looking to do for the future.
Nice. Nice. So, last question, finish this sentence.
Boy,
The
wow.
moment I stopped being just a maker and started being a CEO, everything changed because.
Because I started making decisions based on growth and not comfort. What's really going to propel my business to go forward and not where I'm currently comfortable sitting. We can sit in comfort forever. Comfort's not going to make the money. So, starting to make decisions based on growing versus what's comfortable.
That's really good advice, and that is true, we as human beings, we tend to want to stay where we're comfortable. But to grow a
Mhm.
business and to really thrive, you do have to kind of push yourself out of that comfort zone.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely. Well, this was an amazing topic. I hope that the listeners enjoy trying to flip that switch a little from being the
Mhm.
founder of a brand and a product to being its CEO and setting up that foundation so that you can grow further. Yeah, this
Yes.
was great. And it was so nice to have you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming on the podcast with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed being here with you and having this wonderful discussion. Yes, foundation. Get that foundation.
All right. Thank you very much, LaShonda.
Thank you, Lee.